That's what I try to remember, man. And at any given moment, any one of us can make a mistake. You know, you may not make the same mistake I make, but you gonna make a mistake. Yeah. But ain't God forgiving though, man?
Isn't he?
Ain't he? This thing called grace and mercy that my mother used to talk about all the time. It's all I got sometimes. Because when you be out there, man, people don't know. When you ain't, you ain't got nobody.
My name is Goldie Ross, and I am a mother that advocates for people who have been abused. My son, Kirby Ross, was a victim of police brutality. And I am a mother against police brutality. I am also dedicating this video to my son, Kirby Ross, in memory of Trayvon Martin. First, I would like to start off by saying that there's not a day that I don't go by with praying for the Martin family. They lost their son. But did Kirby Ross really survive his beating? Second, I want the world to know that I am not against police officers at all. We need the police. In fact, I am taking the Citizen Police Academy classes right now to have a clear understanding of how or why they do certain things. However, on November the 11th, they took it too far with my son, Kirby Ross. The thing that stays with my mind the most is that my son says, "Mom, the more they beat me and stomp me and beat me, I kept calling your name out." It's heartbreaking. When I received the phone call, my son called me from the jail, and he said, "Mom, things are not as they seem." The next day, I got up. It was all over the news. I was getting phone calls all through the night, and they said my son had pulled a gun out on police officers. And right then and there, it was just something about that statement that kind of disturbed me. Having my son pull a gun out on police officers, my son would be dead today. His bond was $75,000. I began to take a John Q move by selling everything in my home with no regrets. This is not the first person I've done it for in my family. I've done it for my husband, my stepson, my oldest son, Kevin Ross Jr., and now my baby boy, Kirby Ross. This is not a video for empathy or sympathy or pity. We just want the truth to be told. Yes, my son, Kirby Ross, has a past, but his past does not determine his future. Kirby did not deserve to be beaten like that over and over and over again. Now I want you to put yourself in my shoes. And you go out and you be beaten and your head is slammed into the ground over and over and kicked and stomped and stomped and kicked. Would you really survive that? It's called post-traumatic stress disorder. And I'm his mother, and I'm having to live with it. When I went to see my son at the jailhouse, my son looked like Jesus Christ on the Passion of Christ. My son has never lied to me. He has done some things that I'm not very proud of. Some things that I'm not even gonna mention. But my son looked me in my eyes with a tear rolling down his eye, and he said, "Mom, I didn't do what they say I did." And that's when the mommy mode really took in. And I was like, I gotta get my son out of here. I stress again that his bond was $75,000. I raised money for a lawyer and to get him out of jail. Then when we went to court, his bond was reduced to nothing because the state did not have enough evidence. I stress this. Trayvon Martin did not survive this horrific act. The question is, did Kirby Ross survive it? Kirby has a past, he has a present, and he has a future. And I'm sharing my story for the victims that in the past, and for Trayvon, and for people in the future. We're not looking for a pity party. We're not looking for a handout. All we are needing right now is a hand. My son was a football player. He's a great football player. He is also a great writer. He wants to rap. He's rapping out his pain. And as a mother, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get my son to the next level. Because I don't want my son to walk around being this angry, this person, being a menace to society. A week later, well, with persistence, a year later, I kept contacting the police department, wanting to know what are they going to do, how's it, what is the conclusion to what really happened and all that. A year later, they came out with a verdict that the officer gave inaccurate information. To me, that is falsifying information. He got 3 days suspension with pay. In the paper, Kirby was put all on blast, his picture, my family. And on this paper, you don't even see the officer's face. All you see is his name. On the news, all you heard was the officer's name. I have no beef with this officer. I don't. I have no beef with none of the officers. Again, I stress that you just took it too far. Yes, Kirby got up swinging, trying to fight for his life. That's normal. Anybody, if you're being beaten, you're going to try to fight for your life. On the day that they gave the verdict of this man only getting suspended for 3 days, I again went John Q. And I will elaborate on that a little later on. The measurements I took for my son, he received a scholarship in Oklahoma. That was a 12-hour drive. I had just had a major surgery, and it didn't matter. My main thing was to get my son out of this town. We were being threatened. Allegedly, friends and family members were saying awful things to us. He deserved this. God was whooping his butt. Things you wouldn't expect from your family, your friends. Things I would never say to one of my friends had this happened to their son, no matter what the situation was. And during this whole process, when I went to go see my son, he was concerned about me. He was concerned about himself. But one of the neighborhood children who has a mental disability, like my oldest son, Kevin Ross Jr., he was more concerned about him. He said, "Mom, such and such witnessed what happened to me. Please go check on him. Make sure he's all right. I don't want him to end up in a mental institution." Now, a cold-blooded, heartless person, that would be the last thing I think will come out of their mouth, is they be concerned about somebody else versus themselves. I took that 12-hour drive there and back, and there and back, until finally my son stayed at that school in Oklahoma. He started off good. It didn't end up very well. Right now he's still confused. He's still a young man in the growing process. He attended a local school here. I have begged for people to help him. His father, whom 25 years ago was this same child, whom has no patience right now for him. I know that his father loves him. I know that his father prays for him. But faith without works is dead. You can pray all day long, but if you're not going to get out there and advocate for your sons, even in their wrongdoing, the way I advocated for you, then the faith is dead. So my son now is going through some withdrawals. I would like for Kirby to be able to elaborate on that. If you read up on post-traumatic stress disorder, it's critical. The veterans go through it. I've been through it. I know how it is to have the life beaten out of you. and you don't know if you're going to survive it. You don't even want to survive it. You don't want to get up off that floor. And it seems that if you want to say, forget it. But instead of me giving up on my son that I believe in greatly, who has a heart of gold just like his mother, and he has a heart like his father, because his father is not a cold-blooded person at all. But we need to, I guess I have so much respect for the Trayvon Martin's family, for the simple fact that that father looked in the camera and said, I will not stop until justice is served. With his baby mama beside him and Trayvon's stepmom. So that right there is just why I'm pushing for this Martin family. I pray that everything work out. The Zimmerman man, this is coming from me, was wrong for what he did. The Jackson Police Department, those police officers were wrong for what they did. When I first got the message, I went to those officers and I hugged them and I thanked them for not killing my son. And one of the officers just kept resisting me, but the more he resisted me, the more I held on to him. And that resistance was basically just a sign of guilt. I'm going to stress this again. My son does have a past, but it will not determine his future. Judge Mathis had a past. And Judge Mathis is now a judge. So in all of this, I'm hoping that Kirby will be able to encourage the youth of his generation and the next generation. And as a mother, I'm going to help as many people as I can to get this story out, to let people know that they're not alone. The harassment was awful. We moved into an apartment complex. People were coming telling them, that's the guy that, he shot at the police. This all kind of crazy stories that were not true. When all you have to do is ask me. I'm a person of truth. If you ask me, I'll tell you the truth.
When everyone else around could only see the worst in me. Can I sing it one more time? One more time. He saw the best in me. When everyone else around could only see the worst in me. Can y'all help me sing it? Come on. When everyone else around me say.
In closing, I would like to say where I am with the situation. On some days, I'm okay. And on some days, I'm not. I don't want the world to be blindsided to this. Things are happening every day. And when these things happen, the support from different people is so necessary. It is so important. That same vow that I took with marriage, for better or worse, to death do you part. It's the same vow I took when I decided to conceive my sons. Parenthood is a lifetime sentence. I took a vow to serve and to protect my sons. And that is my job. And that is what I'm going to do. And I suggest that to any parent. It's hard. It's not always easy. But our children and our young adults, they need us. So I want to stress again in closing that I'm still not all right with the situation. It's a work in progress. I have been very bitter, angry. I still work on that. And I want to thank the listeners, thank the community, thank other people for just taking this time and this opportunity to hear my story. And in hoping and praying hard that my son will get that strength to tell his story in his terms and in his own way.